Słodki zapach cukru i drożdży unosił się przez małą piekarnię Scarlett, wypełniając każdy kąt ciepłem. To był jej własny mały świat, przytulny, spokojny i całkowicie jej. Ale dzisiaj coś czuło się inaczej. Jej dłoń spoczęła lekko na jej brzuchu. Delikatna krągłość zaczęła się pokazywać pod fartuchem pokrytym mąką. Malutkie życie rosło w niej. Miała zostać matką. Radość wezbrała w jej klatce piersiowej, a jednak strach wśliznął się obok niego, ponieważ wiedziała, że będzie musiała przejść przez to wszystko sama. Tak jak zawsze była sama przez ostatnie 20 lat, chciała podzielić się tą chwilą z kimś. Wyciągnęła swój telefon, zrobiła szybkie zdjęcie swojego rosnącego brzucha i szybko wpisała. Han, spójrz na to. Małe ciasto w piekarniku zaczęło rosnąć. Potem nacisnęła wyślij. Prosta czynność, nieszkodliwa, z wyjątkiem tego, że nie wiedziała, że wysłała to na zły numer. W tym samym czasie w Nowym Jorku Vincent Romano siedział na czele długiego stołu konferencyjnego na 50. piętrze wieży Penthouse. Pokój był zimny. Mężczyźni w czarnych garniturach siedzieli nieruchomo jak posągi. Nikt nie odważył się mówić, chyba że otrzymał pozwolenie. Ponieważ Vincent nie był zwykłym człowiekiem. Był bossem, był ciemnością, był władzą. Jego prywatny telefon zaświecił się. Podniósł go, jego oczy przesuwając się po ekranie. A potem czas zdawał się zatrzymać. Fotografia, smukła dłoń spoczywająca na ciężarnym brzuchu. W tle bałagan w kuchni pokryty mąką. Bez twarzy, ale on mógł czuć wszystko. Delikatność, kruchość i obietnica życia. W jednym uderzeniu serca obraz jego matki pojawił się w jego umyśle. Ona kiedyś położyła swoją rękę na swoim brzuchu w ten sam sposób. Uśmiechnęła się w ten sam sposób, zanim została mu skradziona na zawsze, wraz z młodszym bratem, którego nigdy nie poznał. Vincent miał wszystko. Pieniądze, władzę, strachliwy szacunek. Ale była jedna rzecz, której pragnął i nigdy nie posiadał. Rodzinę, spadkobiercę, kogoś do ochrony. A to zdjęcie czuło się jak przeznaczenie dostarczające coś przeznaczonego tylko dla niego. Wstał. Spotkanie nadal trwało. Wszyscy zamarli. Nie zadał sobie trudu, by spojrzeć na kogokolwiek. Skończone. Wynosić się. Jego głos nie musiał być głośny, aby całe pomieszczenie posłuchało. Potem zadzwonił do Marco. Znajdź ten numer. 5 minut. Przygotuj samolot. A potem wpisał wiadomość. Scarlett czekała na wesołą emoji od Hana, ale jej telefon zaświecił się słowami, które sprawiły, że krew w jej ciele zamieniła się w lód. Samochód przyjedzie za 10 minut. Zabierze cię do mojego prywatnego odrzutowca. Wsiadaj do samochodu. Musimy porozmawiać. Jej serce waliło o jej żebra, jakby chciało się uwolnić. Kto to był? Jak mogli ją znaleźć tak szybko? To nie była zwykła wiadomość na zły numer. To był ktoś o ogromnej władzy. Jej pierwszym instynktem było uciec, ale potem spojrzała w dół na swój brzuch. Jeśli by uciekła, czy ta osoba i tak by ją znalazła? Czy jej dziecko byłoby bezpieczne? Straciła już zbyt wiele w swoim życiu. Nie mogła stracić także tego dziecka. Zablokowała drzwi piekarni drżącymi rękami. Pośpiesznie wysłała wiadomość do Hana. Jeśli nie usłyszysz ode mnie w ciągu 24 godzin, zadzwoń na policję. Błyszczący czarny Mercedes przybył dokładnie na czas, jak czarna pantera w nocy. A kiedy wsiadła do samochodu, nie wiedziała, czy to był największy błąd w jej życiu, czy początek przygody, o której nigdy nie odważyła się marzyć. Jeśli chcesz wiedzieć, co wydarzy się dalej, proszę naciśnij polub, aby wesprzeć kanał. Podziel się tym z przyjacielem, który musi wierzyć w miłość. I subskrybuj teraz, aby nie przegapić historii, które poruszają serce, takich jak ta. Mercedes gładko sunął po znajomych ulicach Bostonu, tą samą drogą, którą Scarlett przebyła 1000 razy. Ale dzisiaj wszystko wyglądało dziwnie obco. Witryny sklepowe, latarnie uliczne, twarze pieszych na chodniku. Wszystko to zdawało się należeć do innego świata. Świata, z którego ją wyciągano. Kierowca nie powiedział ani jednego słowa. Jechał tak, jakby ona nie istniała. I być może dla niego ona naprawdę nie istniała. Była tylko paczką, którą trzeba było dostarczyć we właściwe miejsce we właściwym czasie. 20 minut później samochód zatrzymał się na prywatnym lotnisku. Nie takim lotnisku, jakie Scarlett kiedykolwiek widziała w swoim życiu. Nie było długich kolejek ludzi, żadnych głośników wygłaszających ogłoszenia, żadnego chaosu, tylko cisza i srebrno-biały samolot czekający na pasie startowym, jak gigantyczny ptak gotowy, by ją połknąć w ciemność. Weszła po schodach do samolotu na drżących nogach. W środku musiała mrugnąć kilka razy, żeby uwierzyć w to, co widziała. Kremowa skóra, polerowane drewno orzechowe, miękkie złote światła. To nie był samolot. To był pałac na niebie. Stewardesa w mundurze marynarki wojennej powitała ją uśmiechem. Uśmiech był zbyt doskonały, zbyt profesjonalny, jakby nosiła go tysiące razy wcześniej dla tysięcy innych ludzi. Witaj, proszę usiądź. Szef polecił nam, abyśmy się tobą doskonale opiekowali. Jeśli czegoś potrzebujesz, po prostu zadzwoń. Scarlett opadła na skórzane siedzenie, które było miękkie jak chmura. Nie wiedziała, co powiedzieć. Nie wiedziała, co robić. Jej ręce zacisnęły się na małej torebce, jedynej rzeczy, którą zabrała ze sobą ze swojego starego życia. Stewardesa przyniosła jej szklankę świeżego soku pomarańczowego i talerz ciepłego chleba. Szef powiedział: jesteś w ciąży, musisz dobrze jeść. Scarlett patrzyła na chleb. Zapach był znajomy, jak bochenki, które piekła każdego ranka, ale nie mogła przełknąć. Jej gardło się zacisnęło. Samolot wystartował. Scarlett spojrzała przez okno i patrzyła, jak Boston kurczy się, a potem znika pod chmurami. Jej mała piekarnia, ciasne mieszkanie nad nią. Wszystko, co miała, wszystko, co zbudowała potem. Su potem i potem jej potem nilin potem myśleli potem 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 ostymini in potem 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 fosen modi potem 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 berlin potem 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 mosi modi potem 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 Tag, the last sentence. The sweet scent of sugar and yeast drifted through Scarlett's small bakery, filling every corner with warmth. Should be translated. Let's translate the text sentence by sentence, strictly adhering to the literal mode rules. Original text. The sweet scent of sugar and yeast drifted through Scarlett's small bakery, filling every corner with warmth. This was her own little world, cozy, peaceful, and entirely hers. But today, something felt different. Her hand settled lightly over her stomach. A gentle curve had begun to show beneath the flour-dusted apron. A tiny life was growing inside her. She was going to be a mother. Joy rose up in her chest, and yet fear slipped in beside it because she knew she would have to go through it all alone. Just as she had always been alone for the past 20 years, she wanted to share this moment with someone. She pulled out her phone, snapped a quick photo of her growing belly, and typed in a rush, "Han, look at this. The little cake in the oven has started to rise." Then she hit send. A simple action, harmless, except she did not know that she had sent it to the wrong number. At the same time in New York City, Vincent Romano sat at the head of a long meeting table on the 50th floor of a penthouse tower. The room was cold. Men in black suits sat as still as statues. No one dared to speak unless given permission. Because Vincent was not an ordinary man. He was a boss. He was the darkness. He was power. His private phone lit up. He picked it up, his eyes sliding across the screen. And then time seemed to stop. A photograph. A slender hand resting on a pregnant belly. In the background, a messy kitchen dusted with flour. No face, but he could feel everything. The tenderness, the fragility, and a promise of life. In a single heartbeat, the image of his mother appeared in his mind. She had once placed her hand over her belly the same way. She had smiled the same way before she was stolen from him forever, along with the baby brother he never got to meet. Vincent had everything: money, power, fearful respect. But there was one thing he had craved and never once possessed: a family, an heir, someone to protect. And this photo felt like fate delivering something meant only for him. He stood up. The meeting was still in progress. Everyone froze. He did not bother to look at anyone. "It's over. Get out." His voice did not need to be loud to make the entire room obey. Then he called Marco. "Find this number. 5 minutes. Get the plane ready." And then he typed a message. Scarlett was waiting for a cheerful emoji from Hannah, but her phone lit up with words that made the blood in her body turn to ice. "The car will arrive in 10 minutes. It will take you to my private jet. Get in the car. We need to talk." Her heart slammed against her ribs as if it wanted to break free. Who was this? How could they find her so quickly? This was not an ordinary wrong number text. This was someone with enormous power. Her first instinct was to run, but then she looked down at her belly. If she ran, would this person find her anyway? Would her child be safe? She had already lost too much in her life. She could not lose this baby too. She locked the bakery door with trembling hands. She hurriedly texted Hannah, "If you don't hear from me in 24 hours, call the police." A glossy black Mercedes arrived right on time, like a Black Panther in the night. And when she stepped into the car, she did not know whether this was the biggest mistake of her life or the beginning of an adventure she had never dared to dream of. If you want to know what happens next, please press like to support the channel. Share this with a friend who needs to believe in love, and subscribe now so you do not miss stories that touch the heart like this one. The Mercedes glided smoothly through the familiar streets of Boston, the same road Scarlett had traveled thousands of times. But today, everything looked strangely unfamiliar. The storefronts, the streetlights, the faces of pedestrians on the sidewalk. It all seemed to belong to another world, a world she was being pulled out of. The driver did not say a single word. He drove as if she did not exist. And maybe to him, she truly did not. She was only a package that needed to be delivered to the right place at the right time. 20 minutes later, the car stopped at a private airfield. Not the kind of airport Scarlett had ever seen in her life. There were no long lines of people, no loudspeakers calling out announcements, no chaos, only silence, and a silver-white plane waiting on the runway like a giant bird ready to swallow her into the dark. She climbed the steps into the aircraft on trembling legs. Inside, she had to blink several times to believe what she was seeing. Cream-colored leather, polished walnut wood, soft golden lights. This was not an airplane. This was a palace in the sky. A female flight attendant in a Navy uniform greeted her with a smile. The smile was too perfect, too professional, as if she had worn it thousands of times before for thousands of other people. "Welcome, please have a seat. The boss instructed us to take excellent care of you. If you need anything, just call." Scarlett sank into a leather seat that felt as soft as a cloud. She did not know what to say. She did not know what to do. Her hands clutched her small handbag, the only thing she had brought with her from her old part life. The attendant brought her a glass of fresh orange juice and a plate of warm bread. The boss said, "You were pregnant. You need to eat properly." Scarlett stared at the bread. The smell was familiar, like the loaves she baked every morning, but she could not swallow. Her throat tightened. The plane took off. Scarlett looked out the window and watched Boston shrink, then disappear beneath the clouds. Her little bakery, the cramped apartment above it, everything she had built with sweat and tears for 8 years. Now it was only a tiny dot, and then it was gone. And in the vast emptiness of the sky, memories rushed in like a flood. She remembered her mother, the sight of her mother's hands kneading dough in their small kitchen when Scarlett was 6 years old, the smell of cinnamon and brown sugar, her mother's smile as she taught her how to shape star cookies. "Scarlett, my little girl, every pastry is a message of love. Remember that." Then her mother fell ill. Cancer. 6 months later, she was gone. Scarlett was too young to understand what death was. She only knew her mother would never come back. Her father collapsed after that. He started drinking from morning until night, drinking until he no longer recognized his own daughter. 2 years later, he left. No goodbye. No explanation. Scarlett woke up one morning and found the house empty. She was 8. Then came the years in the orphanage. 7 foster families, 7 times being taken in, then returned. Like a defective object no one wanted to keep. The 4th family was the worst. The foster mother looked at her with cold eyes every day. "You do not deserve to be loved. You are a burden. No one wants you." Those words carved themselves into Scarlett's heart like scars that never healed. At 18, she left the orphanage alone, stepping into the world, working 3 jobs at once, washing dishes, waiting tables, cleaning, sleeping 4 hours a night, saving every single cent. 8 years later, she had her small bakery, the only place that belonged to her, the only place where she felt safe. And now she was flying somewhere towards someone, a man who could find her in 5 minutes, a man with a private jet and silent soldiers who moved like ghosts. Her hand rested on her belly. The baby inside kicked gently as if telling her it was still there. Tears slid down Scarlett's cheeks. She whispered, her voice choked, "I will protect you, no matter what happens. I promise." 2 hours later, the plane landed smoothly. The flight attendant smiled. "We have arrived in Long Island, ma'am." Scarlett looked out the window. A gray sky, a gray sea, and another black car waiting on the runway. The door into a new world had opened, and she had no choice but to step through. The black car glided over the perfectly smooth road. Scarlett sat still in the back seat, staring out the window without truly seeing anything. Her mind was still spinning with thousands of questions that had no answers. Who was that man? What did he want from her? How could one wrong number photo lead to all of this? Then the car stopped in front of a massive iron gate. Scarlett lifted her head and her breath caught in her throat. The gate stood at least 5 meters high, forged from black iron with intricate curling patterns. In the center was a large crest, the letter R raised in gold. Romano, she swallowed with difficulty. The gate slowly opened as if welcoming her, or more accurately, swallowing her whole. The car moved forward. A long drive stretched ahead, lined on both sides with ancient oak trees. Their trunks were so wide that 3 people could not wrap their arms around them. Their branches intertwined overhead, forming a green vault that covered the sky. Late afternoon light slipped through the leaves, casting dancing bands of brightness across the road. It was breathtakingly beautiful, and it was frighteningly lonely. The car drove for nearly 3 minutes before reaching the main building. 3 minutes. Scarlett could not even imagine it. In Boston, her apartment had been only 30 square meters. Here, the driveway alone was as long as an entire city block. And then the mansion appeared. Scarlett had to blink several times to make sure she was not dreaming. That was not a house. It was a palace. White stone gleamed under the sunset. Dozens of tall windows reflected the sun like eyes watching her. Greek-style columns stood in solemn strength at the front entrance. Behind the building, she caught a glimpse of the sea, gray-silver water stretching all the way to the horizon. The clear's throat car stopped. The driver opened the door for her. Scarlett stepped out, her feet touching the marble floor, and she felt smaller than she had ever felt in her life. She was an orphan girl from Boston. She begged to survive. She did not belong here. She did not belong in this world. The enormous oak doors opened before she could reach them. A middle-aged woman appeared. Her silver hair was neatly pinned at the back of her head. Her face was stern, but her eyes held a warmth that felt strangely real. She wore simple black clothing, spotless and precise, carrying the professionalism of someone who had done this work her entire life. "Welcome to the Romano estate. I am Rosa, the housekeeper here." Her voice was low and gentle. "Please follow me." Scarlett nodded, not knowing what to say. She stepped over the threshold, and the world inside overwhelmed her even more than the outside. The main hall was vast. The ceiling soared high, painted with fresco of angels and clouds. A massive chandelier hung above, thousands of crystals shimmering like frozen tears. On both sides were white stone statues, oil paintings in gold frames, and tall vases of fresh flowers rising higher than her head. Rosa led her down a long corridor. The click of Rosa's heels echoed on the stone floor, ringing through the silence. Scarlett followed behind, her eyes darting around. Every step revealed a new scene. Every turn revealed a new room. She felt as if she were wandering through a museum. No, a labyrinth, a luxurious labyrinth built from money and power. "The boss will see you later," Rosa said without turning back. "For now, you need to rest." The boss, Scarlett repeated the words in her mind. The man who had dragged her here. The man who owned all of this. The man she was about to face. Her heart beat faster. Her fingers tightened around her handbag. And inside her, the baby gave a small kick, as if reminding her that no matter what happened, she was not alone anymore. Rosa stopped at a dark wooden door at the end of the corridor. She knocked twice softly, then pushed it open. Miss Clear Throat. "Hayes has arrived, sir." Then she stepped aside to let Scarlett enter. The door closed behind her with a gentle but final click, like the lock of a cage. Scarlett stood in the doorway, her eyes sweeping the room. It was a library, but not like any library she had ever seen. Bookshelves rose all the way to the ceiling, covering all 4 walls. Thousands of books with leather spines in every shade. A wooden ladder slid along the shelves to reach the volumes above. In the center of the room sat a set of brown leather chairs near a fireplace that was burning. The flames flickered, giving off warmth and a golden-orange glow. But the room still felt cold, a coldness that did not come from temperature, but from something else, from burns. Then she saw him. Vincent Romano stood by a large window facing the sea, his back to her. He wore a black suit, perfectly tailored, shaped across broad shoulders. His black hair was slicked back. His posture was straight as a blade. Even from behind, Scarlett could feel the power radiating from him. It was not loud. It was not showy. It was simply there. Heavy, crushing, impossible to deny. He turned around and Scarlett forgot how to breathe. Vincent Romano was far taller than she had imagined, perhaps close to 1.9 moon. His face looked carved from sharp lines, a square jaw, a straight nose, thin lips pressed into a firm, unyielding line. But the most striking part was his eyes. Gray, not pale gray like a winter sky, dark gray like tempered steel, cold, penetrating, as if they could see through skin and read every thought in her head. On his left eyebrow was a small scar about 2 centimeters long, cutting across the curve of the brow. An old scar healed long ago, but still there. Like a reminder of a past, Scarlett did not dare to guess. He walked toward her, each step steady, slow, controlled, like a wolf advancing on its prey. Scarlett wanted to step back, but her feet felt nailed to the floor. She could only stand there, lifting her chin, trying not to let her fear show on her face. He stopped a few steps away. Those gray eyes swept from her face down to her belly, then back to her face. A silence stretched on. As long as a century. You are a baker. His voice was deep and low, like distant thunder. It was not a question. It was a statement. Scarlett swallowed. Yes, and who are you? Something flashed in his eyes. Surprise, amusement. She was not sure. It vanished too quickly. I am Vincent Romano, and you sent me a photo by mistake. Heat rushed to Scarlett's face. It was an accident. I meant to send it to my friend. I will delete your number, and we can forget this. There are no accidents. Vincent cut in, his voice calm but decisive. Only fate. Scarlett blinked. Fate? What are you talking about? Vincent did not answer right away. He turned and walked to the fireplace, standing there as he watched the flames for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice had changed, still deep, still cold. But there was something else in it, something deeper that Scarlett could not name. The baby you are carrying. Who is the father? The question landed like a slap. Scarlett clenched her teeth. That is none of your business. Answer me. Silence stretched again. Scarlett wanted to lie, to make up a story, but those gray eyes felt like they had a spell pulling the truth out of her. No one, she said, her voice bitter. He has a wife. He has children. He left me the moment he learned I was pregnant. He is not worthy. It's really, Vincent looked at her. And this time, Scarlett saw his jaw tighten. Something dangerous flickered in his eyes. Anger. At whom? At her, or at the man who abandoned her. Good, he said, because from now on, I will be the father of the baby. Scarlett thought she had misheard. What did you say? Vincent stepped closer, each footfall like a drum beat. He stopped right in front of her, close enough that she could catch the faint scent of sandalwood and leather on him. The world out there is dangerous, Scarlett. For the first time, he said her name, especially for someone who is now connected to me. You sent that photo to me. You let me see that baby. And now you belong to my world. I do not belong to anyone. Scarlett lifted her chin, her eyes locked on his. You cannot keep me here. Vincent stared at her for a long moment. Then the corner of his mouth rose slightly. Not a smile, only the shadow of one, as if her courage amused him. The baby is my future, he said, each word clear and unshakable. You will stay here under my protection. Not Clear's throat, as a prisoner, as an honored guest. Honored guests are not forced. Honored guests are kept safe, Vincent replied immediately. At any cost. He turned toward the door, ending the conversation without needing her agreement. But before he left, he paused and spoke without looking back. Rosa will take you to your room. Rest, you will need your strength. A pause for the baby. The door closed. Scarlett stood alone in the library, the fire still flickering, her heart still pounding wildly. She saw those gray eyes again in her mind and realized something. She had not only seen coldness in them, she had also seen loneliness. Deep like an abyss, and a hunger for something he himself did not dare to admit. Rosa took Scarlett to the room prepared for her right after the meeting with Vincent. And when the door opened, Scarlett had to admit that if this was a prison, it was the most luxurious prison in the world. The room was as large as her entire old apartment in Boston, a king-size bed with cream-colored sheets, soft as clouds, dark red velvet curtains falling from a ceiling that rose impossibly high. A sofa beside a large window that looked out over the sea. A private bathroom with a marble bathtub and a wardrobe already filled with dresses, all in her exact size. As if someone had prepared everything in advance, as if they had known she would come. That first night, Scarlett could not sleep. She lay on a bed that was far too big, staring up at the ceiling, listening to the waves crashing against distant rocks. She thought of her bakery. Who would open the doors now? Who would knead the dough? Who would bake bread for Mr. Harold? She thought of Hannah. Her friend was probably frantic with worry. 24 hours had passed. Had Hannah called the police? Would the police find her? Or was that man so powerful that even the police could not touch him? On the second day, Scarlett tried to open the window. Locked. She tried the balcony door. Locked. She walked down the hall searching for an exit, or at least a telephone, but with every step she took, someone was always behind her. Not openly, not threatening, simply there. Men in black suits with small earpieces, stationed at every corner of the hallway, every staircase, every door. They did not stop her from walking. They only watched. And that was even more frightening. Meals were brought to her room on time three times a day. Not ordinary food. These were meals prepared specifically for a pregnant woman. Leafy greens, protein, fresh fruit, milk, vitamins, everything she needed for the baby. Everything she could not refuse, even if she wanted to, because no matter how much she might hate that man, she could not let her child go hungry. On the third day, a middle-aged woman in a white coat came to see her. She introduced herself as Dr. Catherine Wells, the private obstetrician Vincent had brought in. She examined Scarlett carefully, checking her blood pressure, her heartbeat, and performing an ultrasound of the baby. Everything was fine. The baby was healthy, developing exactly as it should for the pregnancy week. Dr. Wells smiled and told Scarlett she needed more rest, better nutrition, and less stress. Scarlett almost wanted to laugh out loud. Less stress while she was being kept here by a mafia boss. On the fourth day, Scarlett found a desk phone in a small office at the end of the hallway. Her heart raced as she lifted the receiver, but there was no dial tone. An internal line. It could only call within the estate. She tried to dial Hannah's number. No signal. She tried to call the police. The line was blocked. She set the receiver down, her hands trembling. She was completely cut off from the outside world. Vincent Romano did not need to lock her in a dark basement. He did not need to chain her to a wall. He only had to place her in a palace filled with every comfort. Then lock every door. A golden cage, beautiful, luxurious, but still a cage. And Scarlett was the bird trapped inside it. She stood by the window in her room, staring out at the sea. Gray water stretched to the horizon. Freedom was right there, just beyond a pane of glass. But she could not touch it. Her hand rested on her belly, feeling the baby growing inside her. She whispered, her voice thick with emotion, clear as throat. I will find a way. I promise you, I will find a way to get us out of here. But the moment the words left her mouth, she knew it was a promise she was not sure she could keep. Because that man did not only have money and power, He had something far more dangerous: patience, the ability to wait, and an iron determination she had seen in those cold gray eyes. Vincent Romano had decided she belonged here, and whatever Vincent Romano decided, he would obtain at any cost. On the morning of the 5th of April, Rosa knocked on Scarlett's door earlier than usual. Scarlett was sitting by the window, staring out at the sea with empty eyes. She had barely slept for nights. The dark circles beneath her eyes were growing deeper. Her spirit was slowly being drained inside this golden cage. "Miss Hayes, please come with me," Rosa said. Her voice was still stern, but there was something different in it, a flicker of warmth, a trace of expectation. Scarlett did not ask where they were going. She had learned that asking was useless. In this estate, she had no right to choose. She simply stood up and followed Rosa through the long corridors. They went down to a lower floor, through areas Scarlett had never stepped into before. At last, Rosa stopped in front of a pair of cream-white double doors. She turned to Scarlett, and for the first time, Scarlett saw the faintest smile on her lips. "The boss wants you to see this." Rosa pushed the doors open, and Scarlett stopped dead in her tracks. This was a kitchen. No, this was a baker's heaven. Morning sunlight poured through large windows, illuminating the entire room. The walls were painted a pale cream, warm and gentle. The counters were bright white marble, polished to a shine, and across them lay the things Scarlett had only dared to dream of. A professional stand mixer in cherry red, a double oven with a digital control panel, baking pans in every shape and size, from small tart molds to tiered wedding cake forms, dough cutters, whisks, measuring spoons, thermometers, piping bags, everything brand new, gleaming, waiting to be used. Scarlett stepped inside as if she were walking through a dream. Her trembling fingers touched the mixer. This was the very model she had wished for over the years, the one she could never afford. She turned toward the shelves of ingredients and her throat tightened. Flour imported from France, brown sugar from Mauritius, Madagascar vanilla, Belgian chocolate, Normandy butter, Ceylon cinnamon. Each ingredient was the best, the most expensive thing she would never have dared to imagine for her small bakery. Then she saw the note. It lay on the counter beside a fresh bundle of lavender, a small piece of paper written in sharp, forceful handwriting. She picked it up and read, "Do what you love." 7 words, no signature, but she knew exactly who it was. Vincent Romano, and suddenly something inside her broke open. Scarlett cried. Not from sadness, not from fear, but from something she could not name. In 27 years of life, no one had ever done this for her. No one had truly seen who she was. No one had cared about what she loved. Her foster families had only wanted her quiet and obedient. Marcus had only wanted her pretty and compliant. No one had asked what she wanted. No one had given her the chance to be herself. But this man, the man she feared, the man who was keeping her here. He had looked at that photo taken in a kitchen dusted with flour, and he had understood. He had understood that baking was not just her job. It was her soul. It was how she stayed connected to the mother she had lost. It was how she found peace in a life full of storms. Rosa stood silently in the doorway, watching Scarlett cry. She did not say anything. She only waited. Finally, when Scarlett wiped her tears, Rosa spoke. "He is not as bad as you think," Rosa said softly. "He just does not know how to show it." Scarlett did not answer. She did not know what to think anymore. She hated being kept here. She hated losing her freedom. But this room, this gift, it confused her. It shook the walls she had built to protect herself. She set the note down, took a deep breath, and began. She took flour, sugar, butter. She poured them into the mixer and listened to the steady, familiar hum. The scent of melting butter spread through the air, and for the first time since she had arrived here, Scarlett felt a small measure of peace. Not freedom, but a quiet pocket in the middle of the storm. Her hands worked the dough. movements so familiar they did not require thought. And in her mind, the image of the man with gray eyes kept returning. Cold, mysterious, yet perceptive enough to know what she needed. Who was he truly? Scarlett did not know, but she began to want to find out. That afternoon, after the first batch of cookies came out of the oven, Rosa appeared at the kitchen door. She looked at the golden cookies neatly lined on the tray, and something gentle flickered in her eyes. Then she spoke, her voice as even as ever. "The boss wants you to have dinner with him." 7 in the main dining room. It was not an invitation, it was an order. Scarlett understood that. But instead of feeling anger like she had in the early days, she only nodded. Perhaps because of the new kitchen, perhaps because of those 7 words on the note, perhaps because she was beginning to want to understand who that mysterious man really was. At exactly 7 o'clock, she entered the dining room, and once again the extravagance of the Romano estate stole her breath. The room was vast, with a ceiling that soared overhead. A long oak table held enough space for 20 people, but only 2 place settings had been arranged, one at each end. Dozens of candles shimmered on tall silver candlesticks, their flames dancing and reflecting off the dark wood-paneled walls. A massive oil painting hung on one wall, depicting the sea in a storm. And at the far end of the table, Vincent Romano sat waiting. He stood when she walked in, a courteous gesture she did not expect from a mafia boss. He wore the same black suit as the first time she met him, but no tie. His collar was slightly open, revealing a hint of collarbone. He looked a little less cold. Only a little. "Sit," he said, his deep voice echoing in the wide room. Scarlett took the chair that had already been pulled out for her. A servant appeared from somewhere, pouring red wine into Vincent's glass and orange juice into hers. Then the plates arrived. Steak, mashed potatoes, roasted vegetables, salad, everything perfect, everything expensive, and everything quiet. The sound of knife and fork against porcelain was the only noise in the room. Scarlett tried to eat, though she had little appetite. She glanced at Vincent through the candlelight. He ate slowly, each movement precise and controlled. Every so often, he looked at her, those gray eyes revealing nothing at all. The silence became suffocating. At last, Scarlett could not take it anymore. She set her knife down and looked straight into his eyes. "Why?" Vincent stopped eating. "Why? What? I have to break. Why all of this?" Scarlett asked, her voice no longer trembling the way it had on the first day. "That kitchen, those ingredients. Why did you do it? You do not know me. I do not know you. We are strangers." Vincent looked at her for a long time. Then he put down his utensils, leaned back in his chair, and laced his fingers together. "Do you believe in fate?" he asked. Scarlett blinked. She had not expected a question in return. "I believe in effort. Fate has never given me anything." Adidos. Something flashed in Vincent's eyes, perhaps amusement, perhaps understanding. "I used to think that too," he said, "that everything I have I took for myself, with strength, with will, with blood." He paused, looking at the nearest candle flame. "But then there are things that happen that cannot be explained, things that are not in the plan." "You mean that photo?" "I mean you," Vincent said, looking back at her, his gaze heavier, deeper. "All my life, I built an empire. Money, power, fearful respect. But I have no one to hand it to. No family, no heir, no future." He leaned forward. "Then you sent that photo, a photo from an unknown number. A woman I had never met, a baby I had nothing to do with. But when I looked at that photo, I knew. I knew it was what I had been looking for." Scarlett shook her head. "The baby is not yours. The baby will be mine," Vincent said, his voice steady. "If you allow it," the words hung in the air. Scarlett did not know how to respond. She searched his gray eyes for deception, calculation, but she saw only something that startled her. Sincerity. rough and clumsy, but sincere. Dinner ended in silence, but it was not the tense silence from before. It was the silence of two people trying to understand each other. When Scarlett stood to leave, Vincent spoke. "Your cookies." Rosa said, "So they are very good." Scarlett turned back surprised. "You tasted them." Vincent did not answer. He only looked at her, the corner of his mouth lifting slightly. Not a smile, but very close. And as Scarlett walked out of the dining room, she realized something. She was no longer afraid of that man. She was beginning to be curious about him. That night, Scarlett could not sleep. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, Vincent's words echoing in her mind. "The baby will be mine if you allow it." He had said it as if proposing a business arrangement. But in those gray eyes, she had seen more than that. She had seen hunger, loneliness, and some pain he was trying to hide. Near 2 in the morning, she decided to go down to the kitchen. Not the new kitchen Vincent had given her, but the main kitchen of the estate where the chef prepared meals each day. She only wanted a warm glass of milk. Maybe it would help her sleep. But when she pushed the door open, she, Clear's throat, was not alone. Vincent was sitting at the stone table in the center of the kitchen, an amber glass of whiskey in front of him. Clear's throat. He was not wearing his suit like usual, only a black shirt with the sleeves rolled up, the collar open. His hair was slightly messy, as if he had run his hand through it more than once. He looked up when he heard her, his gray eyes widening just a little. "You cannot sleep?" he asked. Scarlett shook her head. "Neither can you." Vincent did not answer. He only watched her, then nudged the chair across from him back with his foot, an invitation that needed no words. Scarlett hesitated for a second, then sat down. The kitchen was quiet, filled only with the ticking of a clock and the soft ocean wind outside the window. She stood to take a glass of milk from the refrigerator, warmed it in the microwave, then returned to her seat. They faced each other, each holding a drink beneath the dim light of a midnight kitchen. "You said you have been alone for 20 years, Vincent said, his voice lower than usual. "Tell me." Scarlett felt her throat tighten. No one had ever asked her that. No one had wanted to know. She looked down at her milk, her fingers tightening around the warm cup. "My mother died when I was 6. She began, her voice barely more than breath. Cancer. She fought for 6 months, but she did not win. I was too young to understand. I only knew that one day she was here, and the next day she was not." Vincent stayed silent. He did not interrupt. He did not pity her. He only listened. "My father collapsed after that. He started drinking so much he forgot he even had a daughter. 2 years later, he left. He did not say a word. He left nothing behind. I woke up and the house was empty. At 8 years old, I was sent to an orphanage." Scarlett paused and drew a deep breath. Painful memories surged back like floodwater. But she continued. Maybe because the night made honesty easier. Maybe because Vincent's gaze did not judge. Maybe because she had kept these things locked inside for far too long. 7 families, she said. See, 7 families fostered me over 10 years. Each time I thought it would be home. Each time I was returned. The first family said I was too quiet. The second said I was too expensive. The third said they wanted a younger child. I do now. She stopped, her voice trembling. The fourth family was the worst. The foster mother hated me. She did not hit me. She did not need to. Her words were sharp enough to cut everything apart. Every day she said I was a burden, said no one wanted me, said I did not deserve love. Tears began to roll down her cheeks, but she did not wipe them away. I was 12, I believed her. I believed something was wrong with me, that I was born as something no one ever wanted to keep. Rash, Vincent set his whiskey down, his hand clenched into a fist on the table, the knuckles turning white, his jaw tightened, but he still did not speak. When I was 18, I left the orphanage. I worked 3 jobs, slept 4 hours a night, saved every cent. 8 years later, I had my bakery, the first place that truly belonged to me. Scarlett lifted her eyes to Vincent. Then I met Marcus. I thought finally someone wanted me, but he left too, like everyone else. As silence stretched on, Scarlett felt hollow after saying it all, as if someone had drained all the blood from her body. Then Vincent spoke. His voice was low, solid, and filled with something she had not expected. They were wrong, he said. All of them were wrong. Scarlett blinked, tears still clinging to her lashes. It is not that you are unworthy, Vincent said. They were unworthy of having you. He looked at her, and his gray eyes were no longer cold. They carried a slow, burning fire. You are stronger than they thought, stronger than you think. You survived everything, and you are still standing here. His hand reached across the table and touched hers lightly, only for a second. Warm. Then it withdrew. Scarlett did not speak. She could not. But in her chest, something began to melt. The walls she had built for 20 years began to crack. And the man sitting across from her, the one she had thought was a monster, was the first person to tell her she was worthy. The next evening, Vincent came to find her after dinner. He stood in the doorway of the sitting room where Scarlett was reading. His posture somehow different. The usual coldness was gone. In its place was hesitation, something she had never seen in him before. Come with me, he said. Not a command, almost an offer. Scarlett set her book down and followed him up. They walked through familiar hallways, then turned through a door she had never entered before. The room beyond was smaller than the others in the estate, more intimate, warmer, soft golden light. A glossy black grand piano stood by a window overlooking the garden. On the piano was a silver-framed photograph. Scarlett stepped closer and her breath caught. In the photo was a woman, beautiful in a way that acted, long black hair falling over her shoulders, warm, gentle eyes, and a smile that lit the entire image. But what Scarlett could not look away from was the woman's belly. She was pregnant. Her hand rested softly on the round curve, exactly as Scarlett had done in the photo she sent by mistake. My mother, Vincent said, his voice lower than usual. Lucia Romano. He stood beside her, looking at the photograph with an expression Scarlett had never seen on him. Not cold, not angry, but pain, deep, like a wound that had never healed. This picture was taken 2 weeks before she died, he continued. She was 7 months pregnant. My younger brother, my father had already chosen a name, Marco, like my bodyguard now. My father named him after my brother in remembrance. Scarlett stayed still, afraid to breathe too loudly. She could feel the weight of what he was about to say. Vincent walked to an armchair near the window and sat down. He did not look at her. He looked out into the dark garden as if he were staring into the past. I was 12 that night, he said, his voice low, nearly a whisper. My father was away on business. My mother was home with me. We had just finished dinner. She was playing the piano for me. She played beautifully. Every night she played a lullaby for my brother inside her. He stopped. His hand gripped the arm of the chair, the knuckles turning white. Then the door was kicked in. 3 men stormed inside with guns, black masks. They were from a rival family. They wanted to send a message to my father. Vincent's voice trembled slightly, but he went on. My mother pushed me into a corner. She stood in front of me, protecting me. Her belly was that big, and she still stood there, shielding me. Tears began to stream down Scarlett's cheeks. She did not wipe them away. She only stood there and listened. The gunshots, Vincent said, as if his throat were being crushed. I heard the gunshots. Then my mother fell right in front of me. Blood everywhere, on the floor, on my hands, on my face. He closed his eyes as if trying to drive the image away, but he could not. I crawled to her. I held her. I called to her, but she did not answer. His voice broke. Her eyes were still open, looking at me, but seeing nothing. He swallowed hard, and the pain in his words was unbearable. I held my mother in that pool of blood for 2 hours until my father came home, until they pulled me away. My hands still had my mother's blood, my brother's blood. Silence filled the room. Scarlett did not know what to say. No words were enough. No words could ease pain like that. I lost my mother that night, Vincent said, opening his eyes to stare into nothingness. And I lost my brother, a child who never got to be born, never got to cry. His first cry never got to know I was his brother. He turned to look at Scarlett. His gray eyes were full of anguish. You asked why I did all of this, why your photo affected me the way it did. This is why. Scarlett moved closer. She did not think. She simply acted on instinct. She knelt beside his chair and placed her hand over his clenched hand. I understand, she whispered. I understand now. Vincent looked down at her hand on his. A long moment passed. Then he did something Scarlett did not expect. He turned his hand over and took hers, holding tight, as if she were a lifeline in a dark sea. For 24 years, I have not told anyone about this, he said. No one, not even Marco, not even my grandmother. Why tell me? Vincent looked at her. In those gray eyes, Scarlett saw something she recognized. Loneliness like hers, deep, impossible to heal. But perhaps it could be shared because you understand, he said. You know what loss is. You know what abandonment is. You do not look at me like a boss. You look at me like a man. They sat in silence, two people with scarred pasts, two lonely souls finding each other in the dark, their hands still held tightly together. And for the first time, Scarlett no longer saw Vincent Romano, Jacques, the man keeping her here. She saw him as a 12-year-old boy holding his mother in blood, a man carrying a wound that had not healed in 24 years, a heart aching to be healed. After the night, Vincent shared the story of his mother. Something between them began to change. Not in a dramatic way, not suddenly, only in small things. Glances that lingered a little longer. Silences that no longer felt heavy. Dinners that no longer felt like obligations but became something Scarlett found herself looking forward to. Vincent was still the powerful, cold man to the outside world. But with her, he began to open Kier's throat, bit by bit, like a rusted iron door being pushed open after years shut tight. 1 week after that night, during dinner, Scarlett told him about Marcus. She had not planned to, but Vincent asked, and she found she could not refuse. He is a lawyer, she began, her voice steadier than she expected. I met him at my bakery. He came to buy pastries every morning, smiled at me, talked to me, made me feel seen. She gave a bitter laugh. 3 years. I loved him for 3 years. I thought finally someone wanted to stay with me. I thought I would have a family. Vincent sat still, listening. His hand tightened around his napkin, but he did not interrupt. Then I got pregnant, Scarlett continued. I was so happy. I thought he would be happy too. I ran to his office to tell him, and I saw it. Her voice shook. A family photo on his desk, his wife, 2 children, a little girl and a little boy. He had a family. For 3 years, while he told me he loved me, he had a wife and children. Teeth grinding sounded in the silence. Scarlett looked up and saw Vincent's face change. His jaw went rigid as stone. His gray eyes darkened like the sky before a storm. The fury gathering there made her shiver. What is his name? Vincent asked, his voice low and dangerous. Vincent, what is his name? Scarlett. She understood what he wanted. She understood what would happen if she spoke that name. With Vincent's power, Marcus Webb could disappear from the earth with a single phone call. And part of her, the part that had been wounded, betrayed, discarded like trash, wanted it to happen. But she shook her head. Do not, she said. He is not worth it. He hurt you and he will live with it, Scarlett said, looking into Vincent's eyes. He has a wife. He has children. If you do something to him, those children will lose their father. They are innocent. I do not want that on my conscience." Vincent held her gaze for a long time, a very long time. The rage in his eyes slowly eased, replaced by something else. Respect, surprise, as if she had just shown him something he did not expect. "You are better than him," he said at last. "Better than all of them." Scarlett did not answer. She only felt lighter. Lighter for having said it. Lighter because Vincent listened, and lighter because he restrained himself for her. In the dinners after that, they talked about other things, about the future, about the baby. Vincent asked where she wanted to give birth. She said here was fine as long as there was a good doctor. He said he would bring in the best obstetrician on the East Coast. She gave a small laugh and said there was no need to be so extravagant. He said her baby deserved the very best. Her baby, not his baby. For the first time, he spoke like that. And Scarlett realized he was stepping back, giving her space, waiting instead of demanding. One evening, they sat in the sitting room after dinner. Vincent asked what name she wanted for the baby. Scarlett had not expected that. "If it is a girl, I want to name her Sophia," she said. "It means wisdom. I want her to grow up smart, not foolish like her mother." Vincent did not laugh. He looked at her seriously. "You are not foolish," he said. "You simply believe in good things. That is not weakness." "And if it is a boy?" she asked, trying to shift the subject. Vincent was silent for a moment. Then he said, his voice softer than usual, "Lucas, it means light." Scarlett looked at him. "You," clear his throat, "have thought about this a lot." "I have thought about many things," he replied, "since you came." Their eyes met. Neither of them said anything more, but in that silence, Scarlett felt something shifting. The distance between them narrowed, not with words, with moments like this, with glances, with careful questions, with names chosen gently. The golden cage was still there, but the bird inside was beginning to forget it was trapped. One morning, Rosa stopped by the kitchen while Scarlett was kneading dough for a new batch of bread. The housekeeper stood in the doorway for a moment, watching Scarlett work with a thoughtful expression. Then, clear's throat, she spoke, her voice gentler than usual. "You know, Lucia, the boss's mother, also liked to bake." Scarlett looked up, surprised. Rosa rarely started conversations, and she rarely mentioned Vincent's mother. "She made a special chocolate cake," Rosa continued, "a recipe from her mother's side of the family, from Sicily. Every birthday when the boss was little, she made that cake." Rosa paused, her eyes turning distant. "Since she died, no one has made that cake again, and the boss has never allowed anyone to make it." Scarlett stayed silent, her hands still resting on the mound of dough. She understood what Rosa was saying, and she understood why she was saying it. "That recipe?" Scarlett asked softly. "Do you know it?" Rosa looked at her for a long moment. Then she nodded. "I watched Lucia make it dozens of times. I remember every detail." That afternoon, Scarlett closed the kitchen doors and began to make the chocolate cake. Following Rosa's instructions, flour, sugar, eggs, butter, and a dark Sicilian chocolate, Rosa had gone out of her way to find in the estate storage. Scarlett moved carefully through each step. She beat the eggs until they turned light and airy. She melted the chocolate over a double boiler. She folded in the flour gently, careful not to be heavy-handed. She poured the batter into the pan, slid it into the oven, and sat down to wait. The scent of chocolate and vanilla spread through the kitchen, sweet, warm, like an embrace. When the cake came out, Scarlett kept the decoration simple, a glossy layer of chocolate ganache and a few slices of fresh strawberries. She stared at what she had made, her heart beating faster than usual. She did not know how Vincent would react. He might get angry. He might feel she was trespassing on a sacred memory of his mother. But she wanted to try anyway for a reason she could not explain even to herself. That evening at dinner, after the main course was cleared away, Charlotte signaled Rosa to bring the cake out. Vincent was looking down at his glass of wine, not paying attention. Then the cake was placed in front of him. He looked up and froze. Scarlett saw the moment he recognized it. His gray eyes widened. His jaw went rigid. His whole body turned to stone. He stared at the chocolate cake in front of him, at the smooth sheen of ganache, at the simple, elegant way it had been finished. And she saw him swallow hard. Silence stretched on. Scarlett held her breath. She had made a mistake. She should not have done this. She was pressing on a wound that had never healed. But then Vincent picked up his knife, cut a small piece, and brought it to his mouth. He chewed slowly, his eyes closed, and when he opened them again, they were rimmed with red. He did not cry. Vincent Romano did not cry, but those gray eyes were wet, shining in the candlelight. He looked at Scarlett and said nothing. He only nodded a slow nod, heavy with meaning. It was thanks, the greatest thanks a man like him could offer, not with words, with his whole heart. Scarlett gave a small smile, her own eyes stinging. They finished the cake in silence, but it was the warmest silence she had ever known. The next day, Rosa announced that a visitor had arrived. Not an ordinary visitor, but Teresa Romano, Vincent's grandmother, the most powerful woman in the family since Don Alessandro's death. Teresa was 68, yet she still carried the elegant beauty of her youth. Her hair was pure silver, pinned high. Her back was perfectly straight. Her eyes were sharp as a razor. She entered the estate like a queen returning to her kingdom. And when those eyes settled on Scarlett, Scarlett felt as if she were being examined down to the bone. "So this is the girl my grandson went to such trouble to bring home," Teresa said, her voice anything but warm. "The baker girl from Boston." Scarlett cleared her throat, lifted her chin. She did not greet her. She did not bow. She simply met the gaze of the powerful old woman and said, "Yes, I am Scarlett Hayes, and I did not come here because I wanted to." A flash of surprise sparked in Teresa's eyes. Then she gave a soft, dry laugh. "Brave, good. I hate weak people." They sat for tea in the sitting room. Teresa questioned Scarlett about everything, about her family, about her work, about Marcus, about the baby. Scarlett answered honestly. She did not hide. She did not decorate the truth. The old woman listened, nodding, sometimes frowning, sometimes smiling. At the end of the conversation, Teresa stood. She stepped in front of Scarlett and looked her up and down once more. Then she placed a hand on Scarlett's shoulder and her voice softened. "My grandson has never looked at anyone like that. Not in his whole life. You have done what this entire empire could not do. You made him smile." Scarlett did not know what to say. "Welcome to the family, my girl," Teresa said. "Take care of him and the baby." End quote. When the old woman left, Scarlett stood by the window, watching the black car disappear at the end of the long drive. Her hand rested on her belly, and for the first time she wondered, maybe this was not a golden cage. Maybe this place was slowly becoming home. After Teresa's visit, life in the Romano estate began to settle into a new rhythm. A rhythm Scarlett did not expect to feel so familiar so quickly. In the morning, she woke early and went down to bake. The scent of melting butter and caramelized brown sugar drifted through the mansion, waking everyone more gently than any alarm clock could. Rosa told her that since Scarlett had arrived, the estate carried the taste of life. It no longer felt cold like a museum. In the afternoon, Scarlett often walked in the garden. Vincent allowed her outside. Now, as long as someone went with her, she no longer felt imprisoned. The high walls no longer felt like a jail. They felt like a shield, protecting her and the child inside her from the dangerous world beyond. At least she began to believe that. But her favorite time was the evening. Every night after dinner, they sat in the small sitting room beside the library. The room was cozy with a fireplace always burning. Vincent sat in his familiar armchair, reading thick reports on the family's business. Scarlett sat on the sofa across from him, her legs tucked under her, a novel in her hands, and a cup of hot tea beside her. They did not talk much, but the silence no longer hurt. It became something soothing, as if they had known each other all their lives. Sometimes Scarlett would look up and find Vincent watching her. He did not look away. Neither did she. They would hold each other's gaze for a moment, then share a small smile, then return to what they were doing. Small moments, but they added up like drops of water seeping into a crack, slowly bringing down the walls both of them had built it around their hearts. A week later, Vincent suggested they prepare a room for the baby. Scarlett was surprised. She thought he would hand that task to Rosa or hire a professional designer, but Vincent said he wanted to do it himself, and he wanted her to do it with him. They spent an entire afternoon in the empty room beside Scarlett's bedroom. Vincent wore a rolled-sleeve shirt and painted the walls a pale mint green with his own hands. Scarlett chose the curtains, the bedding, the small framed pictures for the walls. They argued about where to place the crib. Vincent wanted it by the window so the baby would have light. Scarlett wanted it away from the window, afraid of drafts. In the end, they compromised, placing it in the middle of the room, far from both the window and the door. When the room was finished, they stood side by side, looking at what they had made. A white crib with a thin canopy, a small dresser filled with newborn clothes, a large teddy bear sitting in the corner. One Vincent had somehow acquired without her knowing where. Late afternoon sunlight filled the room, warm and hopeful. "Beautiful," Scarlett whispered. "Yeah," Vincent said, but he was not looking at the room. He was looking at her. Their hands touched. Scarlett did not know who reached first. Maybe both of them at once, their fingers laced together, natural as if they had been made to do that, warm, steady, and neither of them pulled away. They stood in silence. Two shadows on a mint green wall, hands held tight, and something grew between them. Not loudly, not hurriedly. It was simply there, like the fire in the fireplace each night, burning low but warm enough to melt every kind of ice. Scarlett looked down at their joined hands, then lifted her eyes to Vincent. In those gray eyes, she no longer saw coldness. She saw something else, something soft, something waiting, and she realized her heart was beating faster. Not from fear, from something entirely different. That night the moon was full. Silver moonlight poured through the sitting room's large windows and mingled with the warm glow of the fireplace, creating a strange light, half cold, half warm, like their relationship. Scarlett sat on the sofa as she always did, but tonight she was not reading. She sat quietly, her hand on her belly, feeling the baby moving inside her. The baby had been kicking more these past nights, stronger, as if it too could sense something changing. "The baby is kicking a lot tonight," Scarlett said at last, breaking the silence. "Maybe it likes sitting by the fire with us." Vincent set his report down. He looked at her, then at her belly for a rare moment. Hesitation crossed the face of a man who always seemed certain. Then he did something she did not expect. He stood, stepped closer, and knelt in front of her on the thick rug. Scarlett held her breath. Vincent knelt there, not in weakness, but in reverence, like a knight before a queen, his gray eyes lifted to hers, deep and filled with something she had never seen in him before. Hunger, fear, and hope. "May I," he began, his voice rougher than usual. "May I touch?" End quote. The question hung in the air. Scarlett understood what he was asking, and she understood that this was the first time Vincent Romano had asked permission for anything. This man gave orders. This man demanded. This man took what he wanted. But with her, with this baby, he was asking. He was giving her the right to choose. Scarlett nodded. She did not speak. She did not trust her voice. Vincent lifted his hand and she saw it trembling. A hand that had held guns. A hand that had signed million-dollar contracts. A hand that had crushed enemies. That hand trembled like a leaf in the wind as it moved toward her belly. He placed his palm there gently, as if he were afraid he might break something precious. The warmth of his hand traveled through the thin fabric to her skin. Scarlett felt her heart accelerate. And then it happened. The baby kicked. A strong, decisive kick right into the center of Vincent's palm. He jolted. His entire body reacted as if electricity had run through him. His gray eyes widened, darting from her belly to her face, then back down again. His mouth parted, but no sound came out. "It is saying hello," Scarlett whispered, tears burning behind her eyes. Vincent did not answer. He could not because, for the first time in 24 years since the night he held his mother in blood, Vincent Romano cried, not sobbing, not loud, only silent tears sliding down the hard planes of his face, over the scar on his eyebrow, down his cheek, to his chin, falling onto the hand, still resting on her belly. "It is here," he whispered, his voice breaking. "It is really here." Scarlett lifted her hand and placed it over his on her stomach. She laced her fingers with his, holding tight, as if she let go, he might shatter. "It is here," she repeated, "and I am here too." Vincent looked up at her. In those tear-filled eyes, Scarlett saw everything. The 12-year-old boy who lost his mother, the lonely man who had carried it for 24 years, and the powerful boss kneeling before a baker girl from Boston, crying because of a small kick from an unborn child. He did not need to say anything. She understood. And under that full moon, beside the bright fire, two lonely souls finally found each other. They stayed like that, Vincent kneeling before Scarlett, his hands still on her belly, her hands still resting over his. The tears had stopped, but the traces of them still shimmered on his cheekbones in the firelight. No one spoke. No one needed to. This silence was no longer an emptiness, begging to be filled. It was a conversation through eyes, through breath, through heartbeats falling into the same rhythm. Scarlett looked into Vincent's gray eyes, and for the first time, they were no longer cold. They were warm. Warm as the fire, warm as his hand on her belly. And in their depth, she saw herself. Not the abandoned orphan girl, not the betrayed woman, but someone valued, someone protected, someone truly seen. Her fingers tightened around his hand, unconscious. But Vincent felt it. He lifted his gaze, wicking onto hers. The distance between them narrowed, not because either of them moved forward, but as if an invisible force drew them closer. Vincent raised his other hand slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted, but she did not. She could not. His hand touched her cheek, as light as a butterfly landing on a flower. His thumb brushed over her cheekbone, wiping away a tear she had not even realized had fallen. "Scarlett," he whispered her name. One word, but the way he said it shook her to the bone as if her name were a prayer, a plea, a promise. She tilted her head and pressed her cheek into his palm. Warm, safe. This was the feeling she had searched for all her life. The feeling of belonging to someone, the feeling of being held in place. Vincent leaned toward her slowly, so slowly, giving her every chance to refuse, to turn away, to say no. But Scarlett did not do any of those things. Instead, she leaned toward him too, answering, agreeing, trusting. Their lips met, soft, trembling, like seeing light for the first time after years of darkness. The kiss was not hurried, not demanding. It was a question, may a clear throat, and an answer, yes. Scarlett closed her eyes. She tasted the salt of tears on their lips. She did not know if they were hers or his. Maybe both. She felt his warm breath mingle with hers. She felt his hand on her cheek, holding her as if she were the most precious thing in the world. When they finally pulled back, forehead to forehead, breath entwined, Vincent did not open his eyes. He stayed that way, as if afraid that if he opened them, everything would disappear, as if she were only a dream, and he would wake up in a cold, empty room like every other night. "Scarlett," he whispered again, his voice with feeling, "I do not know what I can promise you. I do not know what the future will be, but there is one thing I know for certain. She opened her eyes. She met the gray eyes now fixed on her with a sincerity she had never seen in anyone. No one is allowed to hurt you, he said, each word heavy as a blood oath. No one is allowed to frighten you. No one is allowed to touch you or this baby. Anyone who tries, I will burn their whole world down. It was not empty drama. Scarlett knew it. She had seen who Vincent Romano was. She had seen his power, his ruthlessness, and she knew every word he spoke was true. He would do it. He could do it, and he would not hesitate. But what moved her was not the strength in that vow. It was the tremor in his voice as he said it, the fear at the thought of losing her, the gentleness in the way he looked at her. I know, she whispered. The first time she called him from a place of closeness instead of distance. I trust you. Vincent closed his eyes, his forehead still resting against hers. A long breath left his chest as if he had finally set down a burden he had carried for 24 years. They sat there in silence. The baby inside Scarlett gave a gentle kick as if it too could feel this moment. Their hands stayed laced together forehead to forehead. And under the full moon that night, two souls that had once been shattered finally found a place to heal. The next 2 weeks became the happiest time of Scarlett's life. After that first kiss by the fireplace, everything between them changed. There was no more distance, no more barriers, only two people learning mo by day how to love each other. Vincent began to call her Scar, a tender nickname no one had ever given her when it slipped from his lips in that warm, unmistakable low voice. Scarlett felt her heart melt. She was no longer the baker girl being kept behind locked doors. She was Vincent Romano's woman. Every night they sat by the fireplace as usual. But now Scarlett no longer sat across from him. She sat beside him, her head against his shoulder, her fingers woven through his. Vincent read his reports with one hand, and with the other he kept his palm on her belly, feeling every small movement of the baby. Sometimes he would bend down and kiss her hair, softly, naturally, as if they had belonged to each other at all their lives. They talked about names for the baby. Scarlett still loved Sophia if it was a girl. Vincent still wanted Lucas if it was a boy. But now when they spoke those names, they spoke with hope, not as a distant possibility. Lucas Romano, Vincent whispered one night, his hand stroking her belly. Our son, us. That one word made Scarlett want to cry from happiness. In the mornings, Vincent often woke first, but before he left, he would always kiss her forehead, whisper, sleep a little longer, and only then step away. In the afternoons, no matter how busy he was, he spent at least an hour in the kitchen with her, watching her bake, sometimes tasting raw batter, and earning a scolding from her. Ordinary moments, simple moments. But to Scarlett, they were everything. But in the middle of those happy days, she began to sense that something was wrong. Vincent grew busier. He took more calls. Closed-door meetings stretched deep into the night. Some nights, when she woke at 2 or 3 in the morning, he still was not in their room. She found him in the library, standing by the window and staring into the darkness, his face tight, his jaw clenched. Is something wrong? She asked him one night. Vincent turned and his features softened the instant he saw her. Nothing, just work. Go back to sleep. But Scarlett knew he was hiding something. She saw how Marco, Vincent's most loyal head guard, kept whispering to him whenever she appeared. She saw how they stopped talking when she drew near. She saw the worry line on Marco's forehead. A man who was usually unshakable, now more tense than she had ever seen him. One afternoon, as she passed through the hallway, she accidentally caught a fragment of conversation. The Wysłała family is moving, Marco said, his voice low and urgent. They know about her. Increase security, Vincent replied, his voice still cold. Double it, triple it if necessary. No one gets near her. Scarlett stood there, her hand on her belly, her heart pounding harder. The Wysłała family. She had heard the name before, in scattered whispers, in Rose's worried looks. They were the enemies of the Romano family, and now they knew about her. That night when Vincent held her, she felt his arms tighten more than usual. He kissed her hair longer, kept her closer, as if he feared that if he let go, she would disappear. "Vincent," she whispered into the dark, "I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." He did not answer. He only held her tighter. And inside that embrace, Scarlett could feel a storm approaching. She just did not know how brutal it would be. That morning, Vincent kissed her longer than usual before he left. He held her close, his face buried in her hair, breathing in that familiar scent as if trying to memorize it. "I have to go take care of something," he said, reluctant in a way she could hear. "Marco will be here. If anything happens, call me immediately." Scarlett nodded. She kissed his cheek and told him not to worry. She was fine. She was always fine. But when the black car carrying Vincent disappeared down the long drive, a strange unease slipped into her chest, a feeling she could not explain. That afternoon, Scarlett was in the kitchen as she always was. She was making apple pie, the dessert Vincent had once admitted he liked. The scent of cinnamon and caramelized apples filled the room, sweet and warm. As she worked, she thought about what Vincent had said the night before, about the future, about how he wanted her at his side, not because of the baby, but because of her, because he loved her. It was the first time he had used that word love, and Scarlett had cried in his arms. She was smiling at the memory when suddenly everything dropped into darkness. The power snapped off. The mixer stopped. The lights went dead. The kitchen still held late afternoon light from the windows, but the sudden silence made her shiver. Scarlett stood frozen, still holding the whisk, listening. Something was wrong. The Romano estate never lost power. The backup system should have kicked in within seconds. But seconds passed, then more seconds. Nothing happened. Her heart began to race. "Marco," she called, her voice echoing through the empty kitchen. No answer. Then she heard footsteps, not the familiar steps of Rosa or the household staff. These were heavy steps, slow, deliberate, coming towards her. The kitchen door opened. Marco stood there, his face tight, his gun already drawn. "Miss Hayes, come with me right now. He did not finish the sentence before another door flew open. Scarlett turned and the blood in her veins turned to ice. Danny Cole stood there. She recognized him, one of Vincent's men. She had seen him moving through the estate, a young face that had seemed harmless. But now that face was cold as stone, and in his hand was a gun aimed straight at her. "Don't move, Marco," Danny said, his voice flat. "Put the gun down, or I shoot her right now." Marco went rigid, pain flashing across his face. He looked from Danny to Scarlett, his grip tight on his weapon, but he did not dare raise it. Scarlett saw helplessness in the eyes of the loyal guard. He was trapped. If he acted, she might die. If he did nothing, she might die anyway. "What the hell are you doing, Danny?" Marco grounded out. Danny gave a bitter laugh. "Doing what you should have done a long time ago, making enough money. The Wysłała family pays very well for anyone who brings her back." His eyes flicked to Scarlett, sweeping from her face to her belly. The boss's woman and the child inside her. "You have any idea what they're paying enough for me to live like a king for the rest of my life?" Scarlett backed up until her spine hit the stone counter, her arms wrapped around her belly, shielding the baby by instinct. Fear made her tremble, but she forced her voice to stay steady. "You don't have to do this. Vincent will find you. You won't get away. By the time he finds out, I'll be on the other side of the world," Danny said, still aiming the gun. "Now come quietly. I don't want to hurt you or the baby. Wysłała wants you alive, but if you fight..." He shrugged. "Accidents happen." Marco took one step forward. "Danny, stop. Think this through. The boss will burn the whole world down to find you. It's not, did it? That's my problem, Danny said without taking his eyes off Scarlett. Now put the gun down. Kick it away or I shoot her in the leg. She'll live, but the baby might not. The threat stabbed straight into Scarlett's heart. The baby, her child. Terror almost made her knees buckle, but she could not fall. She could not be weak. She had to live for her baby. Marco looked at her, his face twisted with agony. Then slowly he bent down, placed his gun on the floor, and kicked it aside. All right, he said, his voice raw. You win, but don't touch her. Danny smiled. Good boy. He stepped towards Scarlett, his other hand pulling out a length of rope. Now let's go, princess. Someone's waiting to meet you. Scarlett stared into the cold eyes of the traitor, her heart pounding wildly, and inside her head there was only one thought. Vincent, where are you? Danny moved closer, rope ready to bind her. Scarlett retreated until her back hit the wall, nowhere left to go. Her arms stayed wrapped around her belly, protecting the life inside her with a mother's instinct. Fear burned in her throat, but she did not scream. She did not beg. She only held the traitor's gaze, praying silently. Don't look at me like that, Danny sneered. I'm not a bad guy. I'm just doing my job, making money. Everybody's got to live. He reached for her, the rope about to touch her wrist. Then the main door exploded inward, not opened, exploded, as if a storm had ripped it off its hinges. Scarlett looked toward the doorway and her heart skipped. Vincent stood there. But this was not the Vincent she knew, not the gentle man who kissed her every morning, not the man who held her hand by the fireplace each night, not the man who had cried when he felt their baby kick beneath his palm. This was something else, something primal, something terrifying. This was rage. His face held no emotion at all, cold as stone, hard as steel. His gray eyes were no longer warm. They were black, black as an abyss, black as hell itself. And in those eyes, Scarlett saw death, not hers. The death of anyone who dared stand between him and her. Danny turned, going pale. The gun in his hand began to shake. Be boss, his voice cracked. All the arrogance gone. Vincent said nothing. He only stepped forward. Each footfall sounded like a war drum, slow, even threatening. He did not rush. He knew Danny had nowhere to run. He knew the traitor was inside his house, threatening his woman, and there was no force on earth that could save him. Stop, Danny stammered, lifting the gun toward Vincent. His hand shook so badly the barrel wavered. I'll shoot. I swear I'll shoot. Vincent kept walking. He did not stop. He did not slow as if the gun were a child's toy. Go ahead, Vincent said, his voice low, deep, and so cold. Scarlett felt the room freeze. Shoot, and see if you can run fast enough to escape hell. And Danny stepped back. One step, two. Sweat broke across his forehead. His finger trembled on the trigger, but he did not shoot. He did not dare because he saw what Scarlett saw. Vincent Romano was not afraid of death, not afraid of pain, not afraid of anything in this world. And that was more terrifying than any weapon. Then Vincent moved. Scarlett did not even see what he did. In a single instant, Vincent was in front of Danny, fast as a ghost, fast as death. His hand swung, knocking the gun out of Danny's grip. Metal slammed against the wall with a shriek. And before Danny could react, Vincent's fingers closed around his throat. Vincent lifted Danny off the ground with one hand, as if the traitor weighed no more than a doll. Danny's legs kicked wildly in the air. His hands clawed at Vincent's wrist, useless. That grip was iron, unshakable. You, Vincent said, his voice a growl from something not quite human. Dared, tighter to touch. I don't know, tighter. What belongs? Dai's face began to turn purple. Two. His eyes rolled. Me. Foam gathered at Danny's mouth. Scarlett stared, her heart twisting. Danny was going to die. Vincent was going to kill him. And she saw the darkness in the man she loved. The darkness he had tried to hide for so long. If he killed Danny, that darkness would swallow him whole, and she would lose him forever. "Vincent," she called, her voice trembling but firm. "Stop!" He did not look back. His grip did not loosen. "Vincent, look at me." Scarlett stepped forward and put her hand on his arm. His arm was steel, muscle locked tight, power coiled beneath the skin. "Look at me. I'm here. I'm not hurt. Our baby is not hurt." Vincent turned his head. Those black eyes met her eyes, and she saw madness fighting something else. Love, gentleness, humanity. "Don't kill him," she whispered, her hand lifting to stroke his cheek. "Not because he deserves to live, but because I don't want you to carry more darkness. You've carried enough." A long moment passed. The room seemed to stop breathing. Then Vincent opened his hand. Danny collapsed to the floor like a sack, coughing and choking, gulping air. He was alive, but the angry red imprint of Vincent's hand on his throat was a reminder of how close he had come to death. Vincent did not look at the traitor. He only looked at Scarlett. The hand that had just crushed a man's throat now trembled as it touched her cheek. The terrifying expression dissolved, replaced by overwhelming fear. "Are you all right?" he rasped. "Did he hurt you? Did he touch you? Is the baby all right?" Scarlett shook her head, tears spilling. "I'm okay. We're okay." Vincent pulled her into his arms, holding her as if she might disappear. His whole body still shook, not with anger now, with fear, the fear of almost losing her. Behind them, Marco and the other men hauled Danny up and dragged him out of the room. The traitor did not resist. He knew his fate had been decided. Maybe not a quick death, but certainly hell. And in the kitchen filled with the scent of apples and cinnamon, Scarlett held her man and silently thanked fate for bringing him back in time. When Danny was dragged away, the kitchen fell silent again. Only the harsh breathing of the two of them remained. Vincent still held Scarlett, as if letting go would turn her to smoke. His body trembled. Not the tremor of rage, but the tremor that comes after fear has passed. The realization that he had almost lost what was most precious. After a long time, Vincent slowly released her, not to leave, but to look at her. His gray eyes swept over her from head to toe, checking every detail. His trembling hand touched her cheek, slid down her neck, her shoulder, her arm, searching for bruises, for cuts, for any sign she had been harmed. "Are you hurt anywhere?" he asked, his voice rough with emotion. "Did he touch you? Did he hurt you?" Scarlett shook her head. "No, he didn't get the chance. You came in time." Vincent closed his eyes and a long breath escaped him. His forehead rested against hers again, warm breath brushing her face. She felt the tension in his body beginning to dissolve, giving way to exhaustion and relief. "I'm sorry," he whispered, pain in his voice. "I promised to protect you. I promised no one would ever make you afraid. But I failed. In my own house, right under my nose, I let a traitor get close to you." Vincent." Scarlett cut him off. She lifted his face in her hands, forcing him to look into her eyes. "I'm still here. I'm not going anywhere. You came. You saved me. That's the only thing that matters. But if I'd been 1 minute later," his voice caught, "if I hadn't gotten the alert from the security system." "If there is no if," Scarlett said firm. "You came. I'm still here. Our baby is still here. Don't tear yourself apart over things that didn't happen." Vincent looked at her, his gray eyes full of torment. She could see self-blame gnawing at him. This man had built an empire to control everything, to protect what belonged to him. And today he had realized that no matter how much power he had, how much money, how many guards, there were still things he could not control. There were still cracks enemies could slip through. There were still dangers that could reach the woman he loved. "I won't let this happen again," Vincent said, each word heavy as a blood oath. "From now on, You don't leave my sight. Never. I will burn the whole world if I have to. I will erase anyone who so much as looks at you with bad intentions. I will." Scarlett placed a finger on his lips, stopping him. "I know, I trust you, but right now, I just need you to hold me. Okay, does Natada?" Vincent said nothing more. He pulled her into his arms, holding her like a lifeline in a stormy ocean. One arm around her back, one hand cradling the back of her head, pressing her to his chest. Scarlett heard his heart beating, fast, strong like a war drum, like the sound of a heart that had nearly shattered. They stood there in silence. The kitchen still held the scent of apples and cinnamon. From the unfinished pie, afternoon sunlight poured through the windows, golden and gentle, as if the world outside had no idea a storm had just passed. Scarlett closed her eyes and let the warmth of Vincent's body surround her. She felt safe. Even after what had happened, even with fear still lodged in her bones in this embrace, she was safe. Then she felt it, a small kick from inside her belly. Then another, stronger, as if the baby was trying to speak. Scarlett smiled through tears. "Vincent," she whispered, "the baby is kicking." Vincent went still. His hand moved from her back to her belly and rested there. And right then, the baby kicked hard straight into his palm, just like the first time, like the night of the full moon, as if the child was telling them both that it was still here, still safe, still waiting to meet them. "Our baby is okay," Scarlett whispered. "Our baby is okay." Vincent bent and kissed her forehead. Then he kissed her belly softly, reverently, as if kissing the most precious thing in the world. "My two women are safe," he whispered, voice thick. "That's all I need." And in a kitchen washed with sunset light, they held each other. 3 people, 1 family. They had weathered the storm together, and they would face whatever came next together. 2 months passed after Danny's betrayal. 2 months in which Vincent did not leave Scarlett's side for more than half a day. He kept his word. She was never out of his sight. Security at the estate was increased 3-fold. Every new employee was thoroughly investigated. And the Volkov family, the ones who had bought Danny, received a message from Vincent Romano, a message written in blood. Scarlett did not ask for details, and Vincent did not offer them, ear's throat. She only knew that after that, no one dared threaten her again. Those 2 months were also the month Scarlett's belly grew larger and larger. The baby kicked more, stronger, as if impatient to be born. Dr. Wells said everything was perfect. The baby was healthy. Scarlett was healthy. They only had to wait. And that night, a full moon, the baby decided it was time. Scarlett woke at 2 o'clock in the morning with a sharp cramp in her belly. She lay still for a moment, thinking it might be false labor like the days before. But then the second pain came, stronger, deeper, and she knew this was real. "Vincent," she shook the man sleeping beside her. "Vincent, wake up. The baby is coming." "Well?" Vincent jolted awake instantly. He sat up, eyes still heavy with sleep, but already filled with alarm. "What now? Right now?" His voice cracked, completely losing the calm control he always carried. Scarlett could not help laughing. Even through the pain, the man who controlled an entire underworld empire. The man who could lift a traitor by the throat with one hand without trembling was now panicking like a boy facing a trial for the first time. After that, everything became a whirlwind. Vincent called Dr. Wells, called Rosa, even called Marco, though he clearly did not know why. He scooped Scarlett up, ready to run downstairs to the delivery room that had been prepared in advance. But she had to remind him she could walk. He did not listen. He carried her anyway, moving fast but careful as if she were fragile porcelain. The delivery room blazed with light. Dr. Wells arrived within 15 minutes, still professional and steady as always. The nurses prepared everything, and Scarlett lay on the bed, pain coming faster, harder, more relentless. Vincent sat beside her, gripping her hand, the hand that had held guns, the hand that had signed million-dollar contracts, was trembling like a leaf in the wind. His face was pale. Sweat dotted his brow. Scarlett had never seen him afraid like this, not even when he faced Danny, not even when he spoke of his mother. This fear was different, deeper, more primal. The fear of a man about to become a father. "Breathe," he said, voice shaking. "I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. Breathe." Scarlett wanted to laugh. Was he talking to her or to himself? But she had no strength for laughter. Pain tore through her. She squeezed Vincent's hands so hard, her nails cut into his skin. He did not flinch. He only squeezed back, letting her feel he was there. The hours that followed were hell and heaven woven together. Hell in the pain, heaven in Vincent's hand, never leaving hers for even 1 second. He wiped sweat from her forehead, gave her water, whispered encouragement she could not fully remember, only feel. He stayed from beginning to end. Then Dr. Wells said, "Almost there. Push hard, Scarlett. Just one more time." Scarlett gathered every last shred of strength. She pushed. The pain peaked like her body was being torn in two. She screamed, and then the pain vanished. In its place came another sound, a cry. The first cry of a tiny life newly born. A healthy baby boy. Dr. Wells announced, her smile bright. Scarlett cried, not from pain, from happiness, from relief, because at last, after 9 months of waiting, her son was here. She heard his crying, loud and strong, full of life, the most beautiful sound she had ever heard. A nurse wrapped the baby in a white blanket and handed him to Dr. Wells. The doctor stepped closer and placed the baby into Vincent's arms. Scarlett watched the man she loved, and she saw him break open. Vincent Romano, the most feared mafia boss on the East Coast, stood there with the baby in his arms and cried like a child. Tears streamed down his hard cheekbones, over the scar on his eyebrow, down his chin, falling onto the white cloth wrapped around his son. He looked down at the tiny face in his hands, eyes closed, a little nose, lips moving softly, small fingers perfect in every detail. His son, his blood, his future. "Hello, my son," Vincent whispered, voice so choked it almost disappeared. "It's Dad. I'm Vincent. I've been waiting for you for a very long time." He stepped to Scarlett and carefully placed the baby into her arms. She held her son, feeling his small warmth, his feather light weight, his steady breathing. Her tears would not stop. Vincent sat beside the bed, one arm around Scarlett, one hand resting on their son's head. Their little family gathered together under the soft lights. Outside the window, the full moon hung bright, spilling silver over the world. "Lucas," Scarlett whispered, looking down at her son's angel face. "Lucas Vincent Romano." Vincent looked at her, eyes still red. "Lucas Vincent, I want him to carry your name," she said with a smile. "So he will know who he belongs to with us." Vincent bent and kissed her forehead, then kissed their son's forehead. And in that moment, all the pain of the past, all the loss, all the scars no longer mattered. Only the present, only the three of them. A family. "Thank you," Vincent whispered. "Thank you for giving me everything." A week after Lucas was born, the Romano estate overflowed with laughter and joy. Scarlett recovered well after the birth. She spent most of her time beside her son, nursing him, rocking him to sleep, studying his small angel face for hours without ever getting tired. Vincent did too. The powerful boss could sit for hours simply watching his son sleep. He learned how to change diapers, how to mix formula, how to hold the baby the right way. Hands that had once crushed enemies now cradled a newborn with the gentleness of someone holding treasure. That afternoon, Rosa came to Scarlett's room and told her to dress nicely. Vincent wanted to take her for a walk in the garden. Scarlett was surprised, but she did not ask questions. She put on a light white dress Vincent had bought for her, tied her hair back simply, and went downstairs. Lucas slept soundly in his crib, and Rosa promised she would watch him carefully. Vincent waited for her at the back door. He wore a white shirt, no suit, no tie. He looked younger, softer, happier when he saw her. His gray eyes brightened, as if 1,000 stars had lit inside them. "You look beautiful," he said, taking her hand. They walked along the garden path where roses were blooming and the evening air was heavy with perfume. Scarlett did not know where Vincent was leading her, but she trusted him. She always trusted him. At last they stopped beneath an ancient oak, the largest tree in the garden. Its branches spread wide, leaves thick enough to roof the sky in green. Far away the sea shimmered beneath the sunset. A gentle breeze carried the taste of salt and the scent of flowers. Vincent turned to her. In his eyes, Scarlett saw everything: love, reverence, and a nervousness she had never once seen in this man. "Scarlett," he began, voice warm and deep, "before I met you, I had everything: money, power, people's fear, but I had nothing. This house was an empty shell. My heart was an empty shell. I existed, but I didn't live." His grip on her hand tightened. "Then you came with flower on your hands, and the bravest heart I have ever seen. You weren't afraid of me. You saw me. Not the boss, not the killer, the man. The lonely man looking for a family." Scarlett's eyes burned with tears. She knew what was coming. Her heart beat faster. "You gave me Lucas. You gave me a family. You gave me a reason to live. You gave me everything I have wanted for 24 years. Vincent released her hand and slowly lowered himself to one knee. He pulled a red velvet box from his pocket. Scarlett lifted a hand to her mouth. Tears spilled. Vincent opened the box. Inside was a diamond ring, not too large, not showy. A single, simple diamond on a platinum band, perfect like their love. "Scarlett Hayes," Vincent said, his voice trembling slightly. "I am not perfect. I have a dark past. I have enemies. I have scars that may never fully heal. But I promise I will spend my life loving you, protecting you, cherishing you. I promise I will be a husband worthy of you, the best father to our child." He looked up at her, gray eyes full of sincerity and hope. "Marry me, stay with me forever," Scarlett cried, not from sadness, from happiness, because at last, after 27 years of loneliness, after being abandoned again and again, after so much pain, she had found where she belonged. She had found home. "Yes," she said, voice broken but sure. "Yes, I will be your wife." Vincent stood, slipped the ring onto her finger, then pulled her into his arms and kissed her beneath the ancient oak in the golden blaze of sunset. A kiss of promise, of forever, of love. 1 year later, the Romano estate sitting room rang with laughter. The fire burned bright in the fireplace. Baby toys lay scattered across the rug. The smell of cinnamon rolls drifted from the kitchen. Lucas, now 1-year-old, was taking his first wobbly steps on the soft carpet. He had his father's gray eyes and his mother's smile. Vincent, the feared mafia boss, was sitting on the floor making ridiculous faces to make his son laugh. Every giggle from Lucas was the greatest reward of his life. Scarlett stood in the kitchen doorway, one hand on her belly. A gentle curve was beginning to show again. She was pregnant with their second child. This time they hoped for a baby girl. Sophia, the name she had chosen long ago. Vincent looked up and saw her, his eyes lit with love and happiness. "Are the rolls done?" "They're done," Scarlett said, smiling. "Just like your mother used to make." "Where?" Vincent stood and lifted Lucas, walking towards her. He kissed Scarlett's forehead, then kissed her belly, then kissed their son's head. "I love you," he said. "I love our son. I love this family." Scarlett smiled and rested her head against his shoulder. "I love you too." They stood there, 3 people, soon to be 4, by the window that looked out over the sea. The sun was setting, turning the sky orange and pink, And Scarlett realized this was the happiness she had searched for her entire life. Not a castle, not money, but being loved, belonging, having a place to call home. One wrong number text had changed her life. It had carried her from a small bakery in Boston to the mansion of a mafia boss, from loneliness to happiness, from abandonment to being treasured. Maybe it had not been a mistake. Maybe it had been fate. And when she looked into the gray eyes of the man who had saved her, she knew one thing for sure. She was home. At last, after 27 years, she was home. Scarlett and Vincent's story has come to an end, but the lessons it leaves behind will remain. Sometimes the best things come from the most unexpected mistakes. Sometimes we find family in the places we least expect. And sometimes the most broken hearts have the greatest capacity to love. Life does not always give us what we want, but if we are patient and brave, it will give us what we need. Thank you for staying with us through Scarlett and Vincent's journey. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you do not miss the next moving story. Please press like and share this video with the people you love to spread a message of love and hope. We would truly love to know how you feel about this story. Have you ever lived through a moment that felt like a mistake only to become a turning point? Do you believe in fate? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We are always eager to hear the stories and feelings that come from the deepest part of your heart. We wish everyone watching this video good health, a joyful life, and days filled with love. May you find your own happiness wherever it comes from and however it arrives. Goodbye, and we will see you in the next. Polish translation. Słodki swach cukru I drożdży unosił się przez małą piekarnię Scarlett, wypełniając każdy kąt ciepłem. To był jej własny mały świat, przytulny, spokojny I całkowicie jej. Ale dzisiaj coś czuło się inaczej. Jej dłoń osiadła lekko na jej brzuchu. Delikatna krzywizna zaczęła się pokazywać pod fartuchem pokrytym mąką. Malutkie życie rosło w niej. Ona miała być matką. Radość wzniosła się w jej klatce piersiowej. A jednak strach wśliznął się obok niego, ponieważ wiedziała, że będzie musiała przejść przez to wszystko sama. Tak jak ona zawsze była sama przez ostatnie 20 lat, chciała podzielić się tą chwilą z kimś. Wyciągnęła swój telefon, zrobiła szybkie zdjęcie jej rosnącego brzucha I szybko wpisała. Han, spójrz na to. Małe ciasto w piekarniku zaczęło rosnąć. Potem nacisnęła wyślij. Prosta akcja, nieszkodliwa, z wyjątkiem tego, że ona nie wiedziała, że wysłała to na zły numer. W tym samym czasie w Nowym Jorku Vincent Romano siedział na czele długiego stołu konferencyjnego na 50. piętrze wieży Penthouse. Pokój był zimny. Mężczyźni w czarnych garniturach siedzieli nieruchomo jak posągi. Nikt nie odważył się mówić, chyba że otrzymał pozwolenie. Ponieważ Vincent nie był zwykłym człowiekiem. On był bossem. On był ciemnością. On był władzą. Jego prywatny telefon zaświecił się. On podniósł go, jego oczy przesuwając się po ekranie. A potem czas zdawał się zatrzymać. Fotografia. Smukła dłoń spoczywająca na ciężarnym brzuchu. W tle bałagan w kuchni pokryty mąką. Bez twarzy, ale on mógł czuć wszystko. Delikatność, kruchość I obietnica życia. W jednym uderzeniu serca obraz jego matki pojawił się w jego umyśle. Ona kiedyś położyła swoją dłoń na swoim brzuchu w ten sam sposób. Uśmiechnęła się w ten sam sposób, zanim została mu skradziona na zawsze, wraz z dzieckiem, bratem, którego nigdy nie poznał. Vincent miał wszystko. Pieniądze, władzę, strachliwy szacunek. Ale była jedna rzecz, której pragnął I nigdy raz nie posiadał. Rodzinę, spadkobiercę, kogoś do ochrony. A to zdjęcie czuło się jak przeznaczenie dostarczające coś przeznaczonego tylko dla niego. On wstał. Spotkanie nadal było w toku. Wszyscy zamarli. On nie zadał sobie trudu, by patrzeć na kogokolwiek. Skończone. Wynosić się. Jego głos nie musiał być głośny, aby całe pomieszczenie posłuchało. Potem zadzwonił do Marco. Znajdź ten numer. 5 minut. Przygotuj samolot. A potem wpisał wiadomość. Scarlett czekała na wesołą emoji od Hana, ale jej telefon zaświecił się słowami, które sprawiły, że krew w jej ciele zamieniła się w lód. Samochód przyjedzie za 10 minut. On zabierze cię do mojego prywatnego odrzutowca. Wsiadaj do samochodu. Musimy porozmawiać. Jej serce uderzało o jej żebra, jakby chciało się uwolnić. Kto to był? Jak mogli ją znaleźć tak szybko? To nie był zwykły tekst na zły numer. To był ktoś z ogromną władzą. Jej pierwszym instynktem było uciec, ale potem spojrzała w dół na swój brzuch. Jeśli ona uciekła, czy ta osoba i tak by ją znalazła? Czy jej dziecko byłoby bezpieczne? Ona już straciła zbyt wiele w swoim życiu. Nie mogła stracić tego dziecka. Też. Ona zamknęła drzwi piekarni drżącymi rękami. Ona pośpiesznie napisała do Hana: jeśli nie usłyszysz ode mnie w ciągu 24 godzin, zadzwoń na policję. Błyszczący czarny Mercedes przybył dokładnie na czas, jak czarna pantera w nocy. A kiedy ona wsiadła do samochodu, nie wiedziała, czy to był największy błąd jej życia, czy początek przygody, o której nigdy nie odważyła się marzyć. Jeśli chcesz wiedzieć, co dzieje się dalej, proszę naciśnij polub, aby wesprzeć kanał. Podziel się tym z przyjacielem, który potrzebuje wierzyć w miłość, i subskrybuj teraz, abyś nie przegapił historii, które dotykają serca jak ta. Mercedes sunął gładko przez znajome ulice Bostonu, tą samą drogą, którą Scarlett przebyła tysiące razy. Ale dzisiaj wszystko wyglądało dziwnie obco. Witryny sklepowe, światła uliczne, twarze pieszych na chodniku, to wszystko zdawało się należeć do innego świata, świata, z którego ona była wyciągana. Kierowca nie powiedział ani jednego słowa. On jechał tak, jakby ona nie istniała. I może dla niego ona naprawdę nie istniała. Ona była tylko paczką, która potrzebowała być dostarczona we właściwe miejsce, we właściwym czasie. 20 minut później samochód zatrzymał się na prywatnym lotnisku. Nie tego rodzaju lotniska, jakie Scarlett kiedykolwiek widziała w swoim życiu. Nie było długich kolejek ludzi, żadnych głośników wygłaszających ogłoszenia, żadnego chaosu, tylko cisza i srebrno-biały samolot czekający na pasie startowym, jak gigantyczny ptak gotowy, by ją połknąć w ciemność. Ona wspięła się po schodach do samolotu na drżących nogach. W środku ona musiała mrugnąć kilka razy, aby uwierzyć w to, co widziała. Skóra koloru kremowego, polerowane drewno orzechowe, miękkie złote światła. To nie był samolot. To był pałac na niebie. Kobieta stewardesa w mundurze marynarki wojennej powitała ją z uśmiechem. Uśmiech był zbyt doskonały, zbyt profesjonalny, jakby nosiła go tysiące razy wcześniej dla tysięcy innych ludzi. Witaj, proszę usiądź. Szef poinstruował nas, abyśmy się tobą doskonale opiekowali. Jeśli potrzebujesz czegoś, po prostu zadzwoń. Scarlett zapadła się w skórzane siedzenie, które czuło się miękkie jak chmura. Nie wiedziała, co powiedzieć. Nie wiedziała, co robić. Jej ręce ściskały jej małą torebkę. Jedyną rzecz, którą zabrała ze sobą ze swojego starego życia. Stewardesa przyniosła jej szklankę świeżego soku pomarańczowego i talerz ciepłego chleba. Szef powiedział: jesteś w ciąży, musisz prawidłowo jeść. Scarlett wpatrywała się w chleb. Zapach był znajomy, jak bochenki, które piekła każdego ranka, ale nie mogła przełknąć. Jej gardło zacisnęło się. Samolot wystartował. Scarlett spojrzała przez okno i patrzyła, jak Boston się kurczy, a potem znika pod chmurami. Jej mała piekarnia, ciasne mieszkanie nad nią. Wszystko, co miała, wszystko, co zbudowała potem, To już koniec. Słodki zapach cukru i drożdży unosił się przez małą piekarnię Scarlett, wypełniając każdy kąt ciepłem. To był jej własny mały świat, przytulny, spokojny i całkowicie jej. Ale dzisiaj coś czuło się inaczej. Jej dłoń osiadła lekko na jej brzuchu. Delikatna krzywizna zaczęła się pokazywać pod fartuchem pokrytym mąką. Malutkie życie rosło w niej. Ona miała być matką. Radość wzniosła się w jej klatce piersiowej. A jednak strach wślizgnął się obok niego, ponieważ wiedziała, że będzie musiała przejść przez to wszystko sama. Tak jak ona zawsze była sama przez ostatnie 20 lat, ona chciała podzielić się tą chwilą z kimś. Ona wyciągnęła swój telefon, zrobiła szybkie zdjęcie jej rosnącego brzucha i szybko wpisała. Han, spójrz na to, Małe ciasto w piekarniku zaczęło rosnąć. Potem ona nacisnęła wyślij. Prosta akcja, nieszkodliwa, z wyjątkiem tego, że ona nie wiedziała, że wysłała to na zły numer. W tym samym czasie w Nowym Jorku Vincent Romano siedział na czele długiego stołu konferencyjnego na 50. piętrze wieży Penthouse. Pokój był zimny. Mężczyźni w czarnych garniturach siedzieli nieruchomo jak posągi. Nikt nie odważył się mówić, chyba że otrzymał pozwolenie. Ponieważ Vincent nie był zwykłym człowiekiem. On był bossem. On był ciemnością. On był władzą. Jego prywatny telefon zaświecił się. On podniósł go, jego oczy przesuwając się po ekranie. A potem czas zdawał się zatrzymać. Fotografia. Smukła dłoń spoczywająca na ciężarnym brzuchu. W tle bałagan w kuchni pokryty mąką. Bez twarzy, ale on mógł czuć wszystko. Delikatność, kruchość i obietnica życia. W jednym uderzeniu serca obraz jego matki pojawił się w jego umyśle. Ona kiedyś położyła swoją dłoń na swoim brzuchu w ten sam sposób. Uśmiechnęła się w ten sam sposób, zanim została mu skradziona na zawsze, wraz z dzieckiem bratem, którego nigdy nie poznał. Vincent miał wszystko. Pieniądze, władzę, strachliwy szacunek. Ale była jedna rzecz, której pragnął i nigdy raz nie posiadał. Rodzinę, spadkobiercę, kogoś do ochrony. A to zdjęcie czuło się jak przeznaczenie dostarczające coś przeznaczonego tylko dla niego. On wstał. Spotkanie nadal było w toku. Wszyscy zamarli. On nie zadał sobie trudu, by patrzeć na kogokolwiek. Skończone. Wynosić się. Jego głos nie musiał być głośny, aby całe pomieszczenie posłuchało. Potem on zadzwonił do Marco. Znajdź ten numer. 5 minut. Przygotuj samolot. A potem on wpisał wiadomość. Scarlett czekała na wesołą emoji od Hana, ale jej telefon zaświecił się słowami, które sprawiły, że krew w jej ciele zamieniła się w lód. Samochód przyjedzie za 10 minut. On zabierze cię do mojego prywatnego odrzutowca. Wsiadaj do samochodu. Musimy porozmawiać. Jej serce uderzało o jej żebra, jakby chciało się uwolnić. Kto to był? Jak mogli ją znaleźć tak szybko? To nie był zwykły tekst na zły numer. To był ktoś z ogromną władzą. Jej pierwszym instynktem było uciec. Ale potem ona spojrzała w dół na swój brzuch. Jeśli ona uciekła, czy ta osoba i tak by ją znalazła? Czy jej dziecko byłoby bezpieczne? Ona już straciła zbyt wiele w swoim życiu. Ona nie mogła stracić tego dziecka. Też. Ona zamknęła drzwi piekarni drżącymi rękami. Ona pośpiesznie napisała do Hana. Jeśli nie usłyszysz ode mnie w ciągu 24 godzin, zadzwoń na policję. Błyszczący czarny Mercedes przybył dokładnie na czas, jak czarna pantera w nocy. A kiedy ona wsiadła do samochodu, ona nie wiedziała, czy to był największy błąd jej życia, czy początek przygody, o której nigdy nie odważyła się marzyć. Jeśli chcesz wiedzieć, co dzieje się dalej, proszę naciśnij polub, aby wesprzeć kanał. Podziel się tym z przyjacielem, który potrzebuje wierzyć w miłość. I subskrybuj teraz, abyś nie przegapił historii, które dotykają serca jak ta. Mercedes sunął gładko przez znajome ulice Bostonu, tą samą drogą, którą Scarlett przebyła tysiące razy. Ale dzisiaj wszystko wyglądało dziwnie obco. Witryny sklepowe, światła uliczne, twarze pieszych na chodniku, to wszystko zdawało się należeć do innego świata. Świata, z którego ona była wyciągana. Kierowca nie powiedział ani jednego słowa. On jechał tak, jakby ona nie istniała. I może dla niego ona prawdziwie nie istniała. Ona była tylko paczką, która potrzebowała być dostarczona we właściwe miejsce, we właściwym czasie. 20 minut później samochód zatrzymał się na prywatnym lotnisku. Nie tego rodzaju lotniska, jakie Scarlett kiedykolwiek widziała w swoim życiu. Nie było długich kolejek ludzi, żadnych głośników wygłaszających ogłoszenia, żadnego chaosu, tylko cisza i srebrno-biały samolot czekający na pasie startowym, jak gigantyczny ptak gotowy, by ją połknąć w ciemność. Ona wspięła się po schodach do samolotu na drżących nogach. W środku ona musiała mrugnąć kilka razy, aby uwierzyć w to, co widziała. Skóra koloru kremowego, polerowane drewno orzechowe, miękkie złote światła. To nie był samolot. To był pałac na niebie. Kobieta stewardesa w mundurze marynarki wojennej powitała ją z uśmiechem. Uśmiech był zbyt doskonały, zbyt profesjonalny, jakby nosiła go tysiące razy wcześniej dla tysięcy innych ludzi. Witaj, proszę usiąść. Szef poinstruował nas, abyśmy się tobą doskonale opiekowali. Jeśli potrzebujesz czegoś, po prostu zadzwoń. Scarlett zapadła się w skórzane siedzenie, które czuło się miękkie jak chmura. Ona nie wiedziała, co powiedzieć. Ona nie wiedziała, co robić. Jej ręce ściskały jej małą torebkę. Jedyną rzecz, którą zabrała ze sobą ze swojego starego życia. Stewardesa przyniosła jej szklankę świeżego soku pomarańczowego i talerz ciepłego chleba. Szef powiedział: jesteś w ciąży, musisz prawidłowo jeść. Scarlett wpatrywała się w chleb. Zapach był znajomy. Jak bochenki, które piekła każdego ranka, ale ona nie mogła przełknąć. Jej gardło zacisnęło się. Samolot wystartował. Scarlett spojrzała przez okno i patrzyła, jak Boston się kurczy, a potem znika pod chmurami. Jej mała piekarnia, ciasne mieszkanie nad nią. Wszystko, co ona miała, wszystko, co ona zbudowała, potem, dalej na końcu.